a bunch of different things I take away. First thing is James Madison's pretty daggone good. They create a lot of problems for you defensively, and we just in that first half, we made way too many mistakes and didn't play nearly hard enough to slow them down. I mean, if you can't, if I don't care who you are, if you can't play harder, and when I say harder, more aggressively, more actively. I mean, they can hurt you in so many different ways. And for me, the guy, and I know Bickerstaff had a great game. He's a terrific player. Michael Green is really, really good, and he picked us apart in the first half. He knew where he wanted to go. He read the floor, and like I said, we didn't have any answer. Really the only thing we talked about much at halftime was that we had to accomplish two things in the second half. One was we had to play much harder. We had to show more scrap, more fight, and we needed to stick together, because it would have been I don't want to say easy, but when you're getting your butts kicked like that, to allow frustration to seep in and pull apart. And I think those two things, and again, it's not a whole lot of solace, but those two things we did. We stuck together, and we fought harder in the second half. I'd like to think that if that could be a starting point, kind of moving forward for our season, but that remains to be seen. We are going to change some things. We've just got we've got some guys that are having a really, really hard time picking stuff up, and I think we have to simplify some things. We have to, if we go from being small to be even smaller, then that may be that may be something. Our guys have the next 2 days off because of exams, and that's not an easy time for student athletes. You're still trying to get ready. Obviously, we got 3 games out in Hawaii coming up, but they've got to hopefully finish strong academically. And it's a stressful time for them. We'll try to make things as easy as we can from the basketball standpoint, right? Because the top priority right now has to be them, getting ready, being prepared for their exams and papers and whatnot. But we as coaches have to somehow come up with a way, different lineups, different different things that it just hasn't to this point, it just hasn't worked out. So rather than continuing to try to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, we're going to have to figure out a way to hopefully make things easier for our players, and with the expectation that if they're not thinking as much, maybe they can be more aggressive and play harder rather than what I assume for some of them anyway is kind of paralysis by analysis. Our learning curve hasn't been very good, and we got to help that along somehow.
There's a lot of that with the helping in the post, because they were free a lot tonight.
Yeah, and they really do put a lot of pressure on you with their offensive sets, but also with their personnel, right? They make you make some decisions, Problem is, we made the wrong decision way too much. You know, we played in between, right? We came out and we said, you know, we're going to show, you know, we're going to be aggressive on the ball screens because we're really lousy at not being aggressive. At least that way, we're doing something proactive rather than sitting back. And, you know, the guys that should have been in the help situations, they were afraid of their guy, you know, out in the corner, or their guy somewhere. You can't play. I mean, you got to be decisive in athletics, certainly in basketball. And you got to take something away, try to force the offense to do something, and then, you know, we were in between. So they had their pick, and that's where Michael Green was so good, and he just, you know, he was like a football quarterback, and he was sitting back there. We couldn't get enough pressure on him, and he just read the defense, and if we went one way, he went the other. And too often, we had guys that just made the wrong decisions time after time. It's frustrating, but we got to work on it, right? And again, that learning curve has to, if guys are going to play, they have to do it, or else they're going to have to sit. Because, you know, we'll go with the guys, the smaller lineups or whatever, you know, guys that are more active. But you got to be able to play hard, and you got to be able to think. You can't just kind of be out there and not have a clue.
Coach Danny gets the start. Obviously, Dorico's not with the team anymore. Jason came off the bench as that number 2 guy. Obviously, going forward, we're going to see, teams that have more height and size inside. In the first half, that really hurt us a lot. Those guys got deep, and they got some.
It didn't. They didn't have, I don't think, but maybe one post-up opportunity, right? So it's not our. It was our help. It was the ball screen situations, and our help was just non-existent at times. When you play bigger teams, right? Can we double in the post and do things? James Madison doesn't play like that. They don't pound it into a guy in the low post. Bickerstaff, 9 for 12. Of those 12, I think probably, I'm going to say 10 of them were layups, and I'm not sure if they were even consistent. That's not an issue of size. That's an issue of guys, perimeter guys, other guys not being where they are, making the plays, making the, being in help position. Whether they're, ball watching, whatever it is. But so we'll see with the size thing. That didn't bother us tonight. It was our rotations were just awful. Look, we're not trying to do anything different defensively than we've done for the last 10 years, right? So it's something obviously with this team, and again, as coaches, we got to figure it out, but we're not doing it. So we have to do a better job. The players, the learning curve has to be better. We got to figure something out, because right now, we're different issues against William and Mary, but again, some of the same guys, not, so we've got to help them as coaches. We've got to help them. Yeah.
If I understand you correctly, one time you said they're basically kind of being indecisive. They're not doing one thing or the other. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, sometimes we just whiffed, right? In football that results in a long touchdown. The coverage is screwed up. For us, it resulted in layups. We were imploring them, if you're going to make a mistake, commit to in the lane. Make them at least. They're shooting 75% on the inside shot. They shoot 30-something% from three. Make them. That's normally not what we've. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling.
What are your thoughts about the crowd tonight, given that you lost a couple?
Awesome. I think that's a great example of our fans, Monarch Nation. And I understand, we've been promoting it. James Madison's coming in, they're 18 in the country and all that. It's a big game, it's a rivalry. But I also understand, we lost our last two, right? And yet these folks showed up. And I think that says a lot about the ODU fans. We didn't give them a whole lot to cheer for, but they hung in there with us, and they tried everything they could to support us. So, I'm proud of, I guess, of them, because they like I said, they tried. They were behind the guys the entire time. I wish we could have given them more. I do believe we have a chance, and we talked about it after the game. Right now we're not a very good team, or we're not a good team. How about that? We're not a good team right now. I think we've got a chance, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take, players buying in. It's going to take coaches, trying to figure some stuff out and put the players in a position where they can be successful. But hopefully, we can get there eventually to become the kind of team that can give the fans something to really cheer for. And that starts with effort. That starts with effort, and that can't be that's not the only, that's the expected, right? You have to have that, right? And so that has to be that's the standard or whatever. But then that gives you a chance to build on top of that. But we have to play harder than we did in the first half, harder than we did at times, defensively against William and Mary. That has to, we've got to figure that one out. Hopefully, the second half tonight was a reset, a starting point, maybe, if you will.
Was DeRico a disciplinary issue?
Yes. I believe there's a release that was put out, I think. He's no longer on the team.
No, I just said undisclosed reasons.
Coach, RJ got the start where we typically see maybe Jason.
Mhm.
Obviously, gives you some more size there, but after the start, only 13 minutes. Was that a matchup issue?
No.
Coach, we saw Devin and Vashon and Chauncey on the court at the same time. We may have seen that maybe very shortly before. We talked a little bit in the podcast that we wouldn't likely see that. Is that what you're alluding to, possibly, of going smaller maybe, or different lines?
Yeah, I mean, we started RJ, Ty, Chauncey, Dev, and Vashon in the second half. All right, I mean, so that's a very different lineup. I mean, the Vashon, Dev, Chauncey backcourt is a little bit scary. I mean, they're small, right? And Chauncey plays bigger than his listed height, but the other two guys, I mean, Vashon is shifty, but he doesn't play bigger than whatever he is, and obviously Dev is really, really fast, but he's, he doesn't have a whole lot of weight on him, and he's but we're going to have to play faster, and that might give us a chance there. I've got to we've got to think about what the changes are going to be, Wade, in big part took him out of the starting lineup as the four-man just because he wasn't playing that much anyway, and we've got three bodies to play at the 5 spot, and this was not a game given JMU's personnel. This was not a game for Leroy at all.